Huston, the question, what things exist, what are the realms of reality, pervades science, philosophy, and religion. Most scientists say it's only the physical world. Some philosophers would say maybe there's a mental world. You've talked about the great religious traditions talking about four levels of existence: a terrestrial, an intermediate, a celestial with God, and then an infinite. I'd like to really understand how that works.
Okay. The terrestrial, this is pretty obvious.
Yes.
And science deal exclusively with that. The intermediate, tomataxi in Plato, that he believed was of immense importance. And I'm listing them now, and then we can go back. And the celestial is the God that can be described metaphorically, to be sure, but usually clothed in human attribute, merciful, all-powerful, and things like that. And then there is the infinite, which being infinite and our minds being finite, it cannot enter and fill only a tiny little portion, like a few drops of the sea can come in. Now, every tradition, and there are 8 major ones that make up civilization, honor those 4. And I once worked out a diagram in which there were like pieces of the pie, and the Chinese and the Indian and the Christian and the Jewish and all of that, all mapped out with their local terminology. I worked that diagram out when I was conducting an NEH summer seminar for junior college professor, 12 there for 8 weeks, and we would study together. And I worked out that diagram during that seminar. And as I passed it around, why, one of the participants looked at it and put it down, picked it up again, studied it, and then put it down again and said with a sigh, an entire life's work on one sheet of paper. Well, there's something to that. And they all have these 4 divisions within them. Now, what would you like?
I would like now to go, now that I understand the picture and the similarities among the different religions, let's go a little bit on each one. I think we know the terrestrial and my science background. We're all familiar with that.
Right.
So let's go to the intermediate.
Yeah. Intermediate. This is the cosmological domain of what introspectively is the mind in its fullness. It is fleshed out in a metaphorical, symbolic form in demons and angels And, in the medieval, the angels, they had different hierarchies.
Yes.
Cherubim, seraphim, and so on.
Now, how about human beings or souls that are departed? Some groups would believe that there's an intermediary range where departed souls sort of inhabit that maybe for a while. Is that part of the intermediate range in some traditions?
Yes, it is. Uh, uh, when our oldest daughter was, and I just need this to illustrate your point, was dying of sarcoma cancer. The last, it was tragic, but it comes to all of us in one form or another. It's a part of life. The last sustained conversation I had with her, she said, "Father, I've been thinking a lot about angels." And then she said, "Not your Christian views." She had converted to Judaism, the Jewish view of angels. And because I teach this stuff, I knew exactly what she was talking about. In the Jewish view, Kabbalistic view, every mitzvah, a mitzvah is a good deed. Every mitzvah creates an angel. And we go on to our next deed, but that angel is a part of cosmology. We have deposited through our good deed into the furniture of the universe and reality. And so that would be the intermediate in one illustration of it in Judaism.
So let's go to the celestial.
All right. The celestial is God in his speakable form, describable through language. And there are Greek phrases for this. Apophatic and cataphatic. A is a negative.
Yes.
A Gnostic knows. An agnostic doesn't know. A believer, theist, and an atheist know God.
Right.
All right. I've lost my way.
Apophatic.
Apophatic, we can talk about that. All metaphors, to be sure. But nevertheless, it gives us a little clue handle to God is loving and kind and merciful, but also just. And our metaphors may be concrete, like a king and a shepherd and so on, like that. That's the cataphatic that can be described. And it's a little bit like trying to catch a building with a snapshot. You can take them from all sides like that, but you can never get the whole building.
So now, how about apophatic?
That is the whole building.
And so you can never get that. That's a negative.
Well, now, that doesn't mean that never is too inclusive,
Okay.
but it cannot be put into words.
But we can describe it in negative words, what God is not.
Well, now, wait a minute. We are using words for the cataphatic.
Yes.
And the via negativa. God is not finite,
Yes.
and therefore he is infinite.
Yes.
Well, we can do that, but I don't think we've gained much by that move. It is, Socrates, one of his points was that you cannot give the full truth in words. In Plato, there are 7 epistles extant, and they are disputed by scholars, but Burnet, who gave his full life to this, thinks that the 7th is right. And in that, Plato said, anybody who thinks that they have gotten my thought in these voluminous dialogue is wrong. The real truth cannot be put into words, but it can be taught, transmitted like a light from a leaping flame.
So let's talk a little bit about the final level, the ultimate, the infinite.
Yeah. Well, having already said it can't be put in words, let's talk about it.
Right. So how do we differentiate the infinite from the celestial? Because even the celestial, we had to use metaphor. So can we say anything about the infinite?
Well, yes, we can say that it exists. And we can say that minds can be illuminated. I think everyday speech we might say a mystical vision, wherein we see. And that says, not only says something, it says something very important. And sometimes these mystical visions can come unsolicited. And that's a kind of gratuitous grace. Whether mystical visions can be systematically developed, there is difference of opinion on that. Vipassana meditation tries to empty the mind. And I thought it's good luck. As the Bhagavad Gita says, it has a wonderful description of the mind taking off. I do believe the wind is no wilder and it has this metaphor of a monkey prancing around its cage, but that doesn't get the idea. A monkey prancing around its cage as if it had been struck by St. Vitus Dan, but even that doesn't do it. It's a monkey prancing around its cage that has St. Vitus Dan that has just been stung by a wasp. Okay, I mean, stilling the mind is a challenge. And I do not fault those who think they can make progress. I even had a gratuitous moment, half hour like that. I was in Death Valley, and suddenly, shortly after midnight, I was awakened. I don't know whether by a coyote or a hoot owl, but it seemed like a call coming from Death Valley, lowest part on this planet. So I slipped on my shorts and a jacket and went out and walked for 15 minutes along the road and then came back 15 minutes. And I think that was the closest to emptying my mind that I have ever come. I, even after I had gone back to bed, I knew that I'd gone for the walk, but I couldn't resurrect a single thought that I have there. Emptying the mind.